Welcome to the Medicare Academy by the Medicare Resource Center. Today's topic is going to be about how to apply and how to enroll in Medicare. Now, the most important thing to know about applying or enrolling into Medicare itself is that experience is not going to be the same for everybody. Different people are in different situations, and depending on your unique situation, that will depend on when you enroll into Medicare and how you enroll into Medicare. So the purpose of this is really to teach you the different scenarios using different situations with real life people, and using that as a mechanism to understand your unique situation that you have and when it is appropriate to apply for Medicare. So let's take this couple here. This is a married couple. He's already over age 65, okay? And he's currently on an employer plan. She is his spouse, and she's collecting Social Security, but she's turning 65. And this is what he says, and this is very, very common. Now that my wife's turning 65, I'm going to retire. We both intend to enroll in Medicare at the same time, and again, we see this a lot of times, but these two folks have very different mechanisms in which to enroll in Medicare, his being a little more complicated than hers. So let's really look at his situation. His situation for this scenario is when he turned 65, he delayed his Part B, or he simply just didn't apply for Medicare because he didn't need Medicare. He had medical insurance through his current employer, but it doesn't have to be a current employer. It could be a previous employer. The fact of the matter is, at age 65, he had creditable coverage for prescription drugs and for medical services, and he decided he was going to wait to get his Medicare at a later date. And because he did that, and now he wants to, a couple of years down the road, now go claim that Medicare benefit, this is the mechanism that he can enroll with. Now, what he can't do is enroll in Medicare online. Now, the mechanism for enrolling in Medicare online, you don't actually do that through Medicare. You do it through Social Security, through the ssa.gov website. But because he cannot do it this way, because he delayed his Part B Medicare, he literally has to do this on a paper application. Now, the first form we're showing you here is a Cms Form 40B. Very simple form. At the bottom of that form, he'll literally write in that remarks section when he wants his Medicare to start. But it doesn't stop there. The second form he's going to need is a Cms Form L564. This form is really intended for employers. Now, he can fill out the top section, Section A, but Section B must be filled out by the employer. And what the employer is going to do here is verify a couple of things. Number one, that he had a group health plan through them that was at least as good as Medicare's. They will put in the dates in which the coverage started and the dates in which it will end, or if it hasn't ended yet, they'll just leave it blank. And then most importantly, the official company officer, which normally is a human resources manager, has to sign off on that form and verify that the enrollee, in fact, has a special enrollment period to get Medicare outside of the normal enrollment period, and that the coverage looks creditable. Now, you can find these forms in our vault on our Medicare Resource Center website. You can download them, so if you need these forms, very easy to access for you. Now, the question is, what do you do with these forms? You're going to take both of these forms, and one of the methods is you can just mail it to the Social Security office. And you want to mail it to your local Social Security office. If you don't know where your local Social Security office is, you simply go to socialsecurity.gov, and in the bottom right-hand corner of the website, there's a Contact Us tab, and it actually will pull up a screen like this. You can click Office Locator, type in your zip code, and it'll give you the exact address in which you can snail mail both of those forms to Social Security. Now, some Social Security offices have drop boxes where you can visit them and just stick it in the drop box if you don't trust the mail service. But that will be the method for somebody that is already 65 but hasn't yet claimed their Medicare benefit. So they can be 66, they can be 70, they can be 80. Doesn't matter. They just haven't applied for Medicare yet. That is their mechanism only. Okay, now for his spouse, she's a little bit easier. She's turning 65, and she's currently collecting Social Security. So when somebody asks me, what is the enrollment mechanism for enrolling into Medicare, the first question I will ask that person is, are you collecting a Social Security check currently? And if they're collecting a Social Security check, my response to them is, you don't actually have to do a thing. Medicare is going to enroll you in Medicare. No matter what, you are going to get a red, white, and blue card in the mail, usually a couple of months before your Medicare effective date. And if you don't want Medicare, at that point, you have to proactively reject it, send your card back and say, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want Medicare. Now, for her situation, she does want it. She wants to enroll. She wants her husband to retire. So she need not do anything. But in the event that she wasn't in that scenario and she had access to some other creditable plan, she could literally send the card back and say, my reason for rejecting Medicare is I already have something. But that is not her situation. So people collecting Social Security prior to age 65 or right at age 65 will automatically be enrolled in Medicare. Now, here's a similar situation. This guy here, still turning age 65, he's also collecting Social Security, but he doesn't have a spouse, right? Let's just call him a single guy. He doesn't have any access to an employer health group plan, so his situation's slightly different, but it actually is the same thing. Because he's turning 65, regardless of his circumstance, his enrollment into Medicare is automatic because he's collecting a Social Security check. So not much difference there between those folks. Now, the more complicated enrollment into Medicare is the person turning age 65 that is not collecting a Social Security check. And in my experience, most of the people that I see in a given month are in this situation. They're turning 65, but they haven't yet claimed that Social Security check for obvious reasons. It has its own, tax consequences for collecting it early. So most people are in this scenario. So this person here, we're just going to call him Boomer for the time being. Boomer wants to claim his Medicare benefit, but because he's not collecting Social Security, he actually must do something physically and go out and apply for it. If he misses it and he doesn't apply for it physically, he could be penalized, even if he didn't know. Medicare really isn't concerned with whether you knew or you didn't know. So what's his mechanism for doing it? A popular way is just to enroll in Medicare online. Now, it's popular for some people, but unpopular for others. Why? Here's why. You don't apply for Medicare online with Medicare. You actually do it with Social Security. You will use the socialsecurity.gov website. And if you currently, right now today, have a SSA.gov account, you'll simply sign into that, apply for Medicare, and you will literally be done in less than 10 months. It is intuitive and it is simple. But if right now today you do not have an SSA account, you will have to create one, and that is a difficult process, which we're going to show you here. But you'll access this site at socialsecurity.gov, and you're going to land on a home page that looks like this, and you can kind of just scroll down and you can go through the site. It'll tell you it's quick, secure, it's easy, and in my experience, it's not quick, it's not easy, but definitely secure. So let's kind of look at those security features. So they have an online identity verification process, and what they tell you here is they have some special, robust cybersecurity that includes additional measures. And the reason they're using these measures is to make sure you are who you say you are, okay? So eventually you get to a point where you're gonna create a username, you'll create a password, and then it's gonna ask you to verify your identity. And they're going to send you a security code to either your mobile device, which will come in the form of a text message, or email. So if you choose the mobile device, you'll receive a text message. It'll have your security code, and you'll have to enter that security code into the website to verify your identity, and that's how they'll do it. Now, if you choose the other method and say, hey, I don't do texting, or I don't want it to go to my mobile device, you will indicate that you want one by email. And in order to actually see that email come into your email account, you're going to have to add no reply at ssa.gov to your contact list because it may end up in your spam and you'll never see it. So before you actually go forth with this, go into your email account, create a new contact called no reply at ssa.gov, and then indicate with Social Security you want your email verification. They will email you a code, and then you'll enter it into the site, and that will help them verify your identity. Okay, so it's not actually that simple. I'm going to walk you through step by step of creating an account. Okay, now when you go to create an account, meaning you don't already have one, Social Security uses the login.gov program to do it. So you'll have to create a login.gov account to verify your identity. You'll first start with your email address, indicate the language that you prefer to read things in, and then you'll have to accept the terms and conditions, and then you'll submit it. So part of these terms and conditions are this. They're going to do something called identity proofing. You're going to have to take a picture of your driver's license and upload it. You're going to put in your name, of course, date of birth, Social Security number, home address. This is just a disclaimer that they use technology from a third-party vendor to ensure that you are who you say you are. They do a credit bureau check, mobile network check, and if they still can't identify you are who you say you are at this point, you're going to get a little pop-up screen that says, we can't verify that you are you, so we're going to snail mail you a security code. And then, several weeks later, when you get that piece of mail, you'll have to come back to the site, put in the security code, and then move forward from there. And then the final step is you're going to have to take a picture of yourself with your cell phone in the format they determine, and that'll be one of the final steps here. Okay? Now, one of the things you have to be very careful about, it's a lot to do, and you may say, I want somebody to help me with this. But Social Security tells us this, for your protection, you're the only one that can do this. Okay? Nobody can do it for you. It is for your exclusive use. So even if you got written permission in a notarized letter and you send it to Social Security, they don't care. They're not even going to respond to you. Only you can create the account. So you may say, well, I'll have somebody do it for me. They won't know the difference. If you get caught, you're going to be subject to criminal or civil penalties, or both. So to avoid any kind of legal action, if you're not confident that you can do this yourself, don't do this yourself. Okay? There's another way that you can enroll in Medicare other than creating a myssa.gov account. Okay, so when I tell people this information, normally I'm hit with a response like this. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not enrolling into Medicare online. What are the other options? Okay, so the other options are this, okay? The only other option is you just contact Social Security, and they're going to help you with those next steps, okay? And if you want to know your local office, which we kind of spoke about earlier, there is a Social Security office locator. It's under the contact tab, and they're going to have you put in this section here your zip code. Now notice just above that in that yellow field, on March the 17th of 2020, they suspended all face-to-face service to the public. So all of their offices are actually closed. Now they're inside of them, but you can't get into them. They don't do face-to-face anymore. You're literally going to have to call them and set up a phone appointment. You're going to have to do it with your local office. So how do you find that local office? This is how. You're going to type in your zip code here. You're going to hit locate. This is a Dayton zip code. And it tells us there's one over there on Hoover Avenue. It gives us a phone number there. And it's even got a map. So, if you're doing this from a mobile device, you could literally, just GPS, get yourself over there. And some of the locations actually have a drop box where you can drop off documents to them. Even though they're inside the building, they won't answer the door. So calling Social Security, your local office, you're going to have to wait on hold. And here's a great piece of advice. Don't call them at 3 p.m. Don't even call them at 2 p.m. Call them at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Call them in the a.m. because you're going to be on hold for a second, depending on when you call. Recently, I had a couple of folks that, called them at 3 o'clock, were on hold for an hour, and then at 4 o'clock when they closed that phone call, even though they were on hold, and told them to call back the next day. So to save you any more heartache, get ahead of it in the morning hours when their call volume is down, so you don't get hung up on. Okay, now that we've told you how to enroll in Medicare, now we're going to go into when do you do it. When people enroll in Medicare really also depends on their situation that they're in. So these three folks here that are in what we call the initial enrollment period, all three of these folks are turning 65. Two of the folks are collecting Social Security, so the when doesn't apply to them. Automatic, done through Medicare themselves. They get a card in the mail. They literally don't need to do anything, so they don't have to worry about timing. I would say this though, if it's a month before you're turning 65 and you've not gotten a letter from Social Security with your Medicare card in it, you probably have an issue. There's something going on. Go ahead and give them a call, okay? Now, if your boomer over here that's turning 65 and because he's not collecting Social Security and he has to actively apply, he has a window of opportunity that he must adhere to. This is called the initial enrollment period. It's basically 3 months before the month of your birth month, 3 months after. This IEP, as it's known, initial enrollment period, is a 7-month window of opportunity. And if you miss this 7-month window of opportunity, you'll have to find a special enrollment period to enroll in Medicare. And you're probably going to incur penalties because you didn't do it within that 7-month window. We have another video that you can access in our on-demand videos that has to deal with Medicare penalties. If you want to know what penalties are and what they mean to you and the dollar amounts, I suggest you go there and check it out if you so choose to. Okay, so not only does he have this initial enrollment period, but his effective date of when his Medicare starts all depends on when he actually applies for it. So if he's a go-getter and he does it within that first 3 months before he turns 65, right, and he applies for Medicare here, easy peasy, his Medicare is going to be effective on the month that he turns 65. Now, there's some exceptions to this. If you're born on the first day of the month, and that is going to be your 65th birthday, your Medicare effective date is actually a month before. That's the only exception to when your Medicare will start, is if you're born on the first day of the month. And if that's you, then you're just going to go 3 months out from a month before your birth month. Everybody else, which is the majority of people, will be in this situation. Now, what happens if you're a procrastinator and time got away from you and you actually apply for Medicare during your birth month? Your Medicare effective date will be the month after. And if you start to procrastinate more, now you're getting into those last 3 months and you do it a month after you already turned 65, you apply for Medicare in this month, your effective date won't be for another 2 months. Okay, so keep that in mind. And if you apply for Medicare any one of those last 2 months of the 7-month enrollment period, okay, your Medicare effective date will not be effective until 3 months after the date of enrollment. So if you are a procrastinator, Medicare is going to make you pay the price and give you an effective date that is 3 months after your application date. The best thing to avoid this situation is 3 months before you turn 65, start having the conversation. Get yourself an appointment with Social Security and just get it done. Okay. Now, what about this guy? This guy that's already on Medicare, not on Medicare, already 65, soon to be 67, enrolling in Medicare because he delayed his Medicare enrollment and he has an employer plan. So he has to actually create a special enrollment period in order to get Medicare. And he has one. His special enrollment period is he had creditable insurance through an employer or a previous employer, okay, regardless of his age. So his enrollment period is only 6 months long, a little bit shorter than the people that get an initial enrollment period. So the first thing this individual has to determine is, when do I not want to have coverage through my employer? And he literally can pick that date. He can say it's here, whatever month this would be. Medicare can only start on the first of the month, so he has 3 months prior to the loss of his coverage, whether he voluntarily surrenders it or it's being terminated. It doesn't matter. 3 months ahead of time, he can apply for his Medicare, and just like the people that have their IEP, Medicare is effective on the month of their Medicare should be effective, okay? Now, he waits too long, and now he basically is applying for Medicare, and he's lost his health coverage through his employer, and it's the same month. His Medicare won't be effective until the first of the following month. If he procrastinate even further and he applies for Medicare the month after the loss, it'll be effective the first of the following month. And if he does it the last month of the 6th month period and he applies for Medicare here, he doesn't have to wait 3 months like the person that has the initial enrollment period. It will be effective the first of the following month. But because he had a special enrollment period and that enrollment period ends 2 months after the loss, if he doesn't do it that last month, he is forbidden from getting Medicare, and he will not be allowed to apply for Medicare until the following year, between the months of January and February, and January and March, and his effective date won't be effective until July of the following year. Again, same situation here. If you know you're going to lose group coverage, try and do it within that first 3 months before you lose it. You will be fine if you do that. If you don't, you will receive a penalty. And again, we have a whole nother video on penalties. Now, his Medicare card will look a little bit different. He's going to get a Medicare card in the mail, and his Part A and B effective dates will be different. His Part A effective date will actually be the birth month of when he turned 65. So in this scenario, it was February the 1st of 2020, and his Part B effective date will be the effective date based on when he lost his group coverage or when he determined he wanted to get his Medicare. So those folks that have different A and B effective dates, that's normally the situation, is they had creditable coverage and they didn't feel like they needed to enroll in Medicare until a later date.